What's up, BookTube? It is officially 2021, and Sandy back here with a video to kickstart the new calendar year. Hopefully you were able to work your way through some of my end of the year videos in the month of December. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work putting together all of those end of the year videos, but I put together some videos with categories that I thought were going to be really fun for people to check out, to get a feel for what I was reading, to get a feel for what I was thinking about what I was reading, and maybe it aligned with what you were thinking, maybe it didn't, I don't know, but it was a lot of fun overall. It was a really good year of reading, and I don't know if I'm going to beat last year's total, which I think was ended up being 71 books total. Goodreads put one book on there twice, so I think it says 72, but really it's 71. So ended up with 71 books read. I pledged 50. So going into 2021, I'm pledging 55 books, and who knows, I may beat that, I may not, but I'm going to have fun along the way anyway. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this new video. Okay, so this is my official wrap-up video for December 2020 as we close the last chapter in the calendar year 2020. So I'm going to go down real quickly some of the books that I read in 2020. But we all know that what we're really looking forward to is what's going to happen in 2021. However, there were some really cool books that I did end up reading in December of 2020, and I'm happy to share that with you right now. First up is Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane. This was actually a fun book to read because this book is giving you the perspective of someone who's a suspect in a death, and you work along with the detective and with the other characters to try to figure out what's actually going on and to actually solve the mystery. So it was actually kind of an interesting way of telling a story, and I did enjoy it. It was very interesting. It was a kind of a quick read. I don't remember how long. It was actually close to 400 pages, but it still read relatively quick. So that I was pleased with. There weren't too many areas where I thought this book dragged, and usually when a book, you know me, if you've been watching me long enough, usually when a book gets up into the high 300s, 400s, or above, that's when I start to get the alarm bells that go off for this is a little too long and could have been trimmed back. I'm not necessarily going to say that about this book, although you can always trim a little bit off of it. But this book, the flow was really nice. I did enjoy it. It was good to follow along. A little bit of a twist at the end. Not a huge twist at the end, but definitely an enjoyable experience. Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane. Next up, I picked up a classic, and that is SlaughterhouseFive by Kurt Vonnegut. And this is a classic that I've been wanting to read for a long time, and so I'm actually glad that I finally did get a chance to read it. I did pledge at some point earlier last year in 2020 that I wanted to read more classic books in addition to wanting to read more nonfiction books. So this is a classic book that I did read for the month, and of course it's satirical in nature, and it's one that a lot of people sometimes read in classes. And at the same time, it's a book that sometimes is banned, that people don't want you to read because it does have political commentary in terms of war and done in a satirical way. But it's an intriguing book. It's very difficult to put down, not super long, but it was definitely a fun read. And I look forward to reading more classics as we go along. But this was a good one, and it's one I would definitely recommend. Most of the people that I know who read it, who reviewed it, especially according to Goodreads, tended to rate it pretty well, 4 to 5 stars. Most people, in fact, that I know that I'm mutual contacts with or friends with on Goodreads rated it 5 stars. So I read it. I think you should too. Next up, I venture into nonfiction, and I'm going to discuss The Heritage by Howard Bryant. Howard Bryant is an author that I've read before. And I know a lot of you out there, when you see books related to racial topics, some of you get a little bit uncomfortable, and I get that. And sometimes, you're going to get thumbs downs for your video. But this is an important book, and so is the next one I'm going to come up with here that I read in the month of December. But this one, The Heritage by Howard Bryant, it discusses black athletes, a divided America, and the politics of patriotism. And it really discusses, and it goes back historically to the civil rights era, the modern civil rights era of the 1960s, and it talks about black activism in sports, and it also contrasts and compares acceptable forms of politics and patriotism in sports and not acceptable at least by the mainstream, politics and patriotism in sports. And so he does a really good job of outlining both and kind of putting you in the position of being the judge as to where's the consistency line at with patriotism, race, and politics in sports. And so it was a really interesting read, very thorough, definitely some historic context in it as well, but also some modern context in it as well. When you think of Megan Rapinoe, you think of course, Colin Kaepernick. There's a lot going on in this book, and it was definitely a worthy read for me. Next up, also staying in nonfiction, is Black Fatigue by Mary Frances Winters. And one of the things that's interesting about this book is it talks about the subtext. The subtitle is How Racism Erodes the Mind, Body, and Spirit. And I'm just going to read a little bit here of the back cover just to give you an idea of what's going on here. Racism is killing Black people, but it's not just the atrocities that break into the mainstream news cycle. It's also what award-winning diversity, equity, and inclusion expert Mary Frances Winters calls Black Fatigue. The crushing physical and emotional toll of dealing with a constant stream of racist acts and attitudes, from the clueless to the cruel to the criminal. And one of the things I really liked about this book, and I tabbed it quite a bit, I dog-eared tagged it quite a bit, and you can see also some highlights in there. One of the things I really liked about this book is that it wasn't just commentary, strong opinion, backed by facts. It also offered solutions, how you can be part of the solution rather than part of the problem, where you can be part of the solution as opposed to someone who's just a bystander who doesn't want to get involved. There are little things that many people can do, whether they realize it or not, that can really combat racism, that can lessen Black fatigue. And so I was really appreciative of the solutions that she offered in writing this book. And so this is a book that probably isn't for everybody, although maybe it should be. And finally, for the month of December in 2020, the last book that I read is an author that, frankly, I felt like I was the only booktuber who hadn't talked about this author, who had not read this author. And I thought, it's about time that I started to explore this author to decide, if I want to read more from her. And the her is Sarah J. Maas, and the book was A Court of Thorn and Roses. And I read the ebook version of it, and I also listened to a little bit of the audiobook, and it was really enjoyable. I really liked it. It's outside of my comfort zone, the type of genre that it is, the fantasy genre that apparently a lot of booktubers really like. And I kind of see why, because I will tell you that the book just really grabbed me right off the start, and you enter the life of the main character and the trials and tribulations that she's going through, her ungrateful family, and the work that she's doing while everybody else is just kind of ungrateful and lazy. And then it just kind of takes you off from there after really setting the scene for what's going on. And so I really appreciated her writing. And I don't know if I'll read how many more I'll read, but I read that one. I picked that one in particular because it was the start of a series, and so I may continue with the series because the main character was pretty interesting. So we'll see if that's how it transpires over the course of 2021. But I did make a pledge that I do want to target more books by two particular authors. One is Sarah J. Maas, which again I started with in December 2020, at the end of December 2020, and the other is Brandon Sanderson, because again, like Sarah J. Maas, Brandon Sanderson seems to be the one author that apparently I'm the only one who is not read yet. So we got to change that, and we're going to in 2021. Okay, so there you have it, my December 2020 reads. I'm finally closing the chapter, no pun intended, on the year 2020, and it was a really fun month of reading, a good mix of fiction and nonfiction. Also introduced myself to a new author, Sarah J. Maas, that I want to read a little bit more of in the future. So all in all, very productive month. Didn't read a ton of books, but I did feel like the ones that I did read were very impactful. So I had an impactful month of December in 2020. I hope you all did too. I also had a month of December 2020 that opened up some new doors, and I hope each month opens up new doors for you as well as you expand and explore what you're interested in reading. Don't lock yourself in a box. Look for other genres, other authors to read. Who knows, you might find that you struck gold if you just give yourself a chance. Peace.